Okay guys, welcome back to another games design tutorial. Today I'm looking at the adventure genre and the elements of gameplay design relating to counterplay, secrets, and Easter eggs.
This is your lucky day.
Firstly, a very quick reminder of a couple of key points of this series from video 1. First off, if you're a student and you haven't seen video 1, go take a look at that. Secondly, video game genres are defined by how the player interacts with the game and not in the way that books and films are by any specific content.
It was really of your own will and leave some of the happiness you bring.
Finally, whilst these videos are pretty good, they are no substitute for having played these games yourself. Alright, that said, let's dive into probably the broadest of the 7 genres we're looking at, the adventure genre. Adventure games tend to focus on storytelling, with the player going on some kind of adventure. They often have an element of puzzle solving and are usually quite heavily story based, which allows us to talk about the only piece of media theory I'm going to mention here, Prop's theory of narrative. So Prop identified 8 common ideas in stories that crop up again and again, usually in the form of characters. The 3 most common are the hero, the villain, and the princess. Now in the last video I said I was going to tell you how you could directly compare different games within the genre, and this is one way, by looking at how different games approach the idea of the hero, the villain, and the princess. So what are those things? Well, the hero is the player. A lot of the time in adventure games, the player is playing a character from the world of the game, be that human, alien,
my whole life changed in just one day,
or robot.
Yeah, says his name is Glitch.
All right, Glitch. Welcome to the Droid Rebellion.
The hero is given some kind of quest, something that they're trying to accomplish that sets them off on their adventure in the first place. This is called the princess. Sometimes it's an actual princess that they need to rescue, and sometimes the idea is a little bit more conceptual.
How we'd make new and tasty, I was still to find.
Standing in their way is the villain, who usually has a few cronies along to help him. Different adventure games approach these 3 characters, and the other 5, in a wide range of different ways, and I'll be looking at some of these ways alongside each of the games that I'm analysing. The core mechanics of adventure games involve the sequential unfolding of bits of story, and the sequential part is very important. As a designer, you have to make sure that the player experiences the story in the right order, so it makes sense. This is very different from the RPG genre or sandbox play, where story sections are more fluid and can often be experienced in any order you like. The most common core mechanic of adventure games is the puzzle format. Puzzles can be something as simple as finding the right type of key for the door you want to get through, or something a little bit more complex. Either way, the idea of a blocked section that the player cannot move past allows you as a designer to make sure that they come across the story in the right order. The key should be found alongside the last bit of essential story for that section before the player moves on. Apart from puzzles, the other mechanic that adventure games rely on a lot is exploration. Moving around and finding the things you need in order to expose the next bit of the secret. Adventure games are often seen as interactive stories.
A ragtag band of bots led by the heroic Colonel Alloy were able to carve out one last vestige of hope.
So let's look at how 2 very different games in that genre do that, and how they lead to counterplay, secrets, and Easter eggs. The first game I want to look at is Alien Isolation, a survival horror game which is a subgenre of the adventure genre. The hero of this game is Amanda Ripley, daughter of Ellen Ripley, protagonist of the Alien films. The game is set several years after the disappearance of Ellen Ripley in the first Alien film.
I know why you're working in the region where she went missing. You're still looking, aren't you?
Finding out what happened to Ellen Ripley is the first princess of the game.
Oh God, the flight recorder.
Obviously, in a survival horror game, staying alive is the other princess or goal of this game, and the core mechanics are set up to make this very challenging indeed. For a start, Everything in this game takes a really long time. And I mean a really long time. Opening doors, hacking computers, even saving the game seems to take forever. But this isn't bad games design. It serves to keep up the tension. Having to wait a full 20 seconds for the lift to arrive is fine, unless you're being chased by gun-toting maniacs.
We need to go! Now!
Or worse. Then you're spamming the button, open, god damn you! Oh, I died again. And you'll die a lot in this game. Once it becomes obvious that there is an alien on Sevastopol, staying ahead of it and finding a way off the doomed station becomes the primary focus of play. Unlike other titles in the Alien series, this game does not see the player blasting away with a smart gun. Staying alive involves avoiding the line of sight of the alien and the demented androids that populate the station. In this respect, the game borrows from another survival horror game, Amnesia: The Dark Descent. Enemies are, by and large, far too powerful to fight, and hiding until they've gone away is often your best option. The villain of the game, the alien itself, will easily find you if you make too much noise. And an optional setting for the Kinect will pick up on any noise made by the player in their living room or bedroom and alert the alien to your presence in the game. This is very different from a game like Riverbond. This adventure game is right out of the hack and slash golden days of games like Gauntlet. The players, and the game takes up to 4 in local co-op, can choose from a variety of unlikely heroes who set off on a series of 9 quests to discover what has happened to the Eldra spirits who once watched over the land. The core mechanics of the game are mostly based around combat, whether that's melee combat or ranged combat. Individual levels will usually have goals that involve finding or freeing something. There are a whole range of enemies to fight your way through, with mid-level and end-of-level bosses serving as villains. In Riverbond, there is none of the tense storytelling found in Alien Isolation. The story, such as it is delivered entirely through skippable text conversations with the various inhabitants of the land of Riverbond. And whilst the environments help to establish location and tone, there is none of the visual storytelling found in the Alien game. It is possible in Riverbond to play any of the 9 levels in any order you like, which makes the story a little more disjointed and less like an interactive film than something like Alien Isolation.
Stay still.
It also makes the villains, the 9 end-of-level bosses that you can play once you've defeated them, far less present than the alien that you're always on the lookout for. So if we compare the 2 games for hero, princess and villain, we can see how the differences stack up. Riverbond's frantic slash-and-hack style is the product of a warrior hero on a traditional fantasy quest to save the day. Villains are disposable and, for the purposes of the story, entirely interchangeable. Alien Isolation's tense, atmospheric play is the product of a hero who is a normal woman with no combat skills, being thrown up against a villain that she can't really kill and so has to avoid as she searches for clues about what happened to her mother and tries to stay alive. The 2 games' approach to story and character help to drive 2 very different types of interaction. Finally, we move on to the elements of gameplay design. Counterplay is defined as different forms of play that emerge from the way the core mechanics are set up, which is a bit of a mouthful and really refers to people who deliberately play the game in a way that was not necessarily intended by its developers. Good gameplay design will lend itself towards counterplay as players come up with ingenious ways to interact with the game. There are a couple of features of Riverbond that support counterplay. The first is spawning. The game is played on local co-op with up to 4 players on the same screen. In order to keep the game flowing when they all start heading off in different directions, one of these players, the last to join, will spawn the others to their location when they move. Only one player has this ability, meaning that players can drop out and then in again in order to be that last player who has overall control of where they're going. This encourages the sort of side discussions, bargaining, and even arguing about who is going to be the leader. This is a different form of play, emerging from the way the core mechanics are set up. Counterplay. Another mechanic that encourages counterplay is the end screen at the end of each level. Once the end of level boss is defeated, the players have a set amount of time in which they cannot be hurt or killed, or if they do they'll immediately respawn, to move around the screen. This encourages the player to go places that they might stay away from otherwise, as the health mechanic has been overridden. When I play this game with my 4-year-old son, one form of counterplay we engage in is in the face! Where we each try, in this end screen time, to throw crates and hit each other in the face. Dodging these crates is another goal, coming from the fact that there are no enemies and no one can get hurt. This is counterplay. Alien Isolation does not lend itself to counterplay at all. There is a set way through the game, and it involves using as little ammo as possible and avoiding conflict whenever you can. The game mechanics do not encourage a spray and pray style of gunplay. Where Alien Isolation does deliver, though, is on secrets and Easter eggs. The whole game is a love letter to the first 3 Alien films, and Ridley Scott's Alien in particular. As such, there are many features of the environment design and even prop placement that are a homage to the original Alien movie. There are also some moments that players can only fully appreciate if they have seen the films. These are called Easter eggs, because you have to hunt for them like an Easter egg hunt. Putting Easter eggs in your game is a good way to secure the engagement of your target audience, as they tend to be received as little extras that are just for those in the know. Rewards, if you will, for being a fan of the series.
If the staff meeting just ended, no one outside is gonna know the freaking password. Now open up! We need ammo and the chief is out here.
Does he know the password?
He wasn't at the meeting either!
They're found in Riverbond too, where some of the characters you can play as are references to other games and films. And finding and unlocking these characters is one of the ways in which the game marks the player's progression. Some of these characters are even hidden in secret areas that the player has to really look for in order to find, hence the secrets of the game. It's little things like these that can make your game stand out from the crowd and stick in the memories and hearts of your players. In the next video, I'm going to be dipping my toe into the sports genre and looking at one of the ways we can define games and what gives them their replay value. Thanks for watching, y'all.